Welcome to the Chronological Bible Journey, where we discover God's whole story one day at a time. I'm Michael. I'm here with my good friend Derek today. We are going to be your guides as we discuss the Gospels. It is day 300, Derek.
It's hard to believe.
Well, I mean, the end is in sight. 300. Let's do this.
All right. Well, Michael, let's just start right off the bat, and I want you to read Luke 21, 5-6.
Okay. Some of his disciples began talking about the majestic stonework of the temple and the memorial decorations on the walls. But Jesus said, "This time is coming when all these things will be completely demolished. Not one stone will be left on top of another."
I love this because they're looking at architecture and they're saying it's incredible. The disciples are kind of in awe of how large the temple was and how beautiful it was.
And Jesus just cuts them off at the knees there.
Yeah. He just burst their bubble. So I kind of want to remind us, we've talked about the temple so much, but I want to kind of remind us of some history here. So the temple was originally built by Zerubbabel and Ezra, and you read about that in Ezra 6, but greatly expanded and improved by Herod.
And this is the second temple, not the first
That's
one.
correct. It was the center of Jewish life for almost 1,000 years. That's a long time.
We can't even comprehend that in our nation. 1,000 years is a long time.
Well, we've been doing this 300 days, and it seems like a long time. So we're talking about 1,000 years here. It was the center of Jewish life. The temple was so revered that it was customary to even swear by the temple. And speaking against the temple was even sometimes considered blasphemy. So it was really a big deal. King Herod more than doubled the Temple Mount area, increasing it to about 36 acres. 36 acres. That's a very large piece of architecture. And so to think about how beautiful the magnitude of it wasn't like it was this small country church. I mean, this is a huge temple, 36 acres. Herod's rebuilding work started in 19 BC and was only completed in AD 63, taking more than 80 years. And now Jesus is saying it's going to be destroyed, which is a good reminder that we're not taking anything with us. All this stuff's going to pass away.
No matter how great it seems or how big or anything like that, everything will come to an end.
That's right. Herod would have probably thought this would have been the pinnacle of his career, right? To expand the temple, to make it what it was that day. It was only completed for 7 years when it was destroyed.
How disappointing.
Someone has worked 80 years, most of their life to build this and to kind of leave their imprint on it, and it would have been destroyed. The temple wasn't just big, it was also beautiful. The Jewish historian Josephus said that the temple was covered on the outside with gold plates that were so brilliant that when the sun shone on them, it was blinding to look at. And where there was no gold, there were blocks of marble of such a pure white that from a distance, travelers thought there was snow on the Temple Mount. So this thing sounds like it was just beautiful. Gold, marble. Some 40 years after Jesus said this, there was a widespread Jewish revolution against the Romans in Palestine. The rebels enjoyed many early successes, but ultimately, we know Rome did what?
The might of Rome responded eventually.
That's right. It crushed the rebellion. Jerusalem was leveled, including the temple, just as who had said? Just as Jesus had predicted. Now, Roman soldiers, it is said that Roman soldiers surrounded it, and one drunken soldier, they said, started a fire that soon engulfed the whole building, the entire temple. Now, think about that, 36 acres. So this is a large fire. The writer said, ornate gold detail work in the roof melted down into the cracks between the stone walls of the temple. And to retrieve the gold, the Roman commander ordered that the temple be dismantled stone by stone. Little did he know.
Which is exactly what Jesus said.
He was fulfilling prophecy. Had no idea that that's what they were doing, but he said, look, we got to get every ounce of this gold, so I don't want one brick, not one brick left on top of another. And that's exactly what Jesus said would happen. Now, Michael, the literal fulfillment of this prophecy establishes the tone for the rest of this chapter. Because Jesus is prophesying multiple things in this, and if you can't see that one prophecy is going to be fulfilled, it's a little difficult to believe that others are going to be fulfilled. So we see this just 7 years after Herod had completed expanding the temple to 36 acres, that it was completely destroyed, and exactly what Jesus said was going to be done happened. And so there's these other prophecies in there. Now we see obviously the prophecy of the destruction of the temple. We see prophecy of signs of tribulation, persecution of believers, the siege of Jerusalem. There are other signs and the Son of Man, and then vigilance and readiness. So there's a lot of different prophecies that Jesus gives within the context of this, just this one chapter. And so we don't have the time to work through each one of these, but what I want to do is just talk about one, and it's the idea of the persecution of the believers. So Michael, will you read Luke 21:12-15?
But before all this occurs, there will be a time of great persecution. You will be dragged into synagogues and prisons, and you will stand trial before kings and governors because you are my followers. But this will be your opportunity to tell them about me. So don't worry in advance about how to answer the charges against you, for I will give you the right words and such wisdom that none of your opponents will be able to reply or refute you.
Well, it's not super encouraging.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great.
No, Jesus tells them, you are going to see not small persecution, not a little bit. He says great persecution. I would imagine that, and we've talked about this before, as the disciples are hearing that one day he's going to come back again, and they are experiencing persecution in their life as they lived past the time of when Jesus was there, that they're thinking he's returning any moment because they're experiencing great persecution. The gospel's spreading like wildfire. People are being saved. The church is growing. When we get to Acts and we see in the mission era where the church is just exploding, that thousands of people are being added to the church, over 3,000 in one day. They would have thought at that time, he's coming back
like
anytime.
it, yeah.
Well, now, Michael, we've gone, 2,000 years since Jesus has been here, and he has not returned for that second coming. And people would say, yes, but we're seeing persecution today. Now, I think if we talked about persecution that we see in other countries, it's definitely there. We've heard stories. I heard a story from a missionary in a country that I won't even name. And he was talking to a bunch of people down at a church in Birmingham when I was listening to him, and he said, please do not pray that persecution will stop. He said, pray that persecution will continue. He said, it is because of the persecution that the gospel is going out and people are being saved. As Americans, we don't even understand that. Because if you and I have, if our air gets a little off, if it's a little too warm or a little too cold, we're uncomfortable and we get upset and frustrated. And what we look to do is just fix the problem. And so if we ever experience persecution, the first thing we're praying is what? Lord, get me out of this persecution. I don't want anything to do with this. But Jesus literally tells them, this is coming, but it's for a good reason. Because it's going to give you the opportunity to share your testimony. And because of the testimony that you share, the gospel's going to go out. And by the way, he says in verse 15, for I will give you the right words and such wisdom that none of your opponents will be able to reply or refute you. I love these phrases we see in here. But before all this occurs, there will be a time of great persecution. That was true of the time right after Jesus. We see that some places here in the world today. And, the disciples would be persecuted after Jesus had mentioned this. I mean, he was predicting what was coming for them. But one of the things that we see here is that just because they experience persecution doesn't mean that is a sign that Jesus is coming back right then.
Yeah.
People are always trying to predict he's coming back next month, next year, 10 years from now, and only the Lord knows that. Our job is just to be obedient to what God's called us to do. And then it says this, and I really like this. It says, you will be dragged into synagogues and prisons. I've never really paid attention to that, but one writer says those two words, synagogues and prisons, indicate persecution comes from both religious and secular sources. Now, we tend to think, it's just that or this.
It's just going to be the government.
Yeah, but we're going to see it all over. And so he tells us, basically you can expect that, but it's because of that the gospel is going to go out. Now, Michael, I just have to ask you a question as we get ready to close. Have you ever personally experienced persecution in your life?
No. I may have been made fun of or mocked, or people have questioned decisions that I've made based upon my faith, but I've never experienced true persecution.
And I would say the same for me. I would say, people have rejected me and things like that, and it may be uncomfortable in my life, but Michael, I will say this, a day is coming. And it may be not in our lifetime, but I think even in our children's lifetime or their children's children, they're going to see this even here in the United States, potentially. And so my prayer is that as we read this, we don't get discouraged, we get encouraged, because greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. And because of that persecution, the gospel is going to go out.
Yeah. What a great reminder that, one, Jesus knew what would happen in the future.
Sure.
We can trust what he says, but that he has promised to be with us no matter what.
Amen.
What a great day on the Chronological Bible journey. Hey, if you are new to following us, if you can leave a rating or review, we would love to hear from you, which will also help other people know that this is a trusted resource as they are reading through the Bible as well. Hey, thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.